women. So in the state of Utah, we only have 23.5% of all technology people in technology fields who are female. And so actually we have only 11% of our high school graduates in all STEM degrees who come out of our universities focused in STEM, and less than 10% of those girls tell us they'll stay in the state of Utah for jobs. So we think all the time about how we inspire those girls and give them access. So this morning we actually have 45 of our interns who are working with the SheTech program here on the front rows. They're all young women, they're all in high school, and they're all thinking about where their careers head. And so we thought this was a great opportunity for them to come and to be inspired and to see what other parts of the technology ecosystem exist here in the state of Utah. So thank you for supporting those young women to be here also. Yes, you're welcome. Okay, so as Victor kind of gave you my background, so one of the things I got to do is spend a bunch of time at Disney. So you're going to see me weave some of those stories in addition to some of the other things about that. So these are my alter egos. In the course of my Disney work, I got to spend time in all sorts of, and wear all sorts of different hats around how we actually brought technology to life and developing technology ecosystems. But one of the things that we thought we'd talk about today is this intersection and this trend that we see happening around what's happening on the digital to physical integration. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about what I'm seeing and where we're headed, and really the new opportunities that are existing across all aspects of innovation in technology. I think we all know that for the last decade, we've seen and we've thought a lot about the digital transformation. So everything that we do nowadays is connected in digital. My entire life is on my cell phone. I don't know about you, right? But how many of you have already spent at least an hour with some device this morning? Right, we do that all of the time. You know, as someone who travels really frequently, this was probably the first time ever when we went to Europe over spring break that the only thing I took was my phone, because it had my entire world on it. And everything and all the infrastructure has really, over the last decade in the digital revolution, meant that we are connected here. And we were walking the streets of Paris, and I didn't need anything but this phone to catch the right train, the right metro, walk the right direction, get the right restaurant, find the right times. And that's true both in our business and our personal lives. And we don't see that changing anytime soon. What we actually see is this really interesting acceleration of now how the digital and the physical worlds are colliding and the opportunities that we see that sit inside of those. And what you find in, I think, each one of these big waves, and what I think is really interesting for us to think about here in Silicon Slopes and broader in the country, is all of the new stages of innovation that are going to become possible as we hit this next wave. So for the last 10 years, we've been focused on making sure infrastructure was there, which is what's made the digital revolution possible now. A decade ago, when smartphones came out, it was the first time they could really come out because we now had the connectivity infrastructure, we had the computing power that could fit in the palm of your hand, and now we're at a place where we have companies racing to create 5G networks. Almost every place you go in the mostly connected world, you can get free Wi-Fi, your cell service works, we have cell boosters, we've solved mesh network problems, we've done all sorts of things that now make it possible for us to figure out how everything in our world is connected, because we've moved from the digital transformation into this really next interesting space of everything physical now getting connected with the digital world. And for me, it's really cool to think about what becomes possible when all of these things get connected together and how we do it in a very responsible and interesting way. One of the projects that I worked on at Disney that was really at the early stages of thinking about this happened to be World of Color. How many of you have ever seen World of Color at Disneyland? Okay, so I really like this show because I think about it as, you know, this fully immersive spectacular at night. And one of the things that we did when we were at Disney is we figured out how to take the Mickey ear hat and have it integrated into the full show control system. So when you watch a nighttime spectacular in any theme park now in the entire world at Disney, there's a show control system integrated with IR LEDs that control physical devices like hats or any light-up toy so that you actually become part of the show. When we launched that at Cars Land, there were thousands of people with light-up Mickey ear hats, all now a part of the show. And this is a physical device, right, that we're controlling through a digital system And it's expanded since then to be integrated with your mobile phone and do all sorts of things. And there were all these visions, like if you walk down the street with someone in the same ear hat, you talk peer-to-peer. The systems can talk to you. If it's your birthday, you could have a special effect that shows up and tells people it's your birthday. But this was really early stages of thinking of that digital to physical world transformation. And now we're even in a cooler place that we get to think about what that means and where it's headed and how we actually create new stages of technology and innovation and change people's lives and do all of these really cool things across every possible intersection that exists out there. So I think my screen is not refreshing over there, which is kind of strange. So I was thinking this morning, and I want you to think about how many devices are connected in your house or that you own. So you left your house this morning. How many things are in your world that are connected? And you guys are technologists, so you probably beat the average, because I know I beat the average. As I was starting to count how many devices I own that are connected to the network, to my cell phone, there's a lot of them. I probably have 100 devices in my house at minimum that are connected. And you start thinking about everything, right? So from my watch to my AirPods to the tile that's sitting on the keys at our house, to your Nest systems, to your security systems and cameras, to your smart televisions, to all of your gaming devices that are sitting out there. And most of us don't only have one cell phone, right? There's probably 5 or 6 sitting in my house, plus all of the iPads, plus then all of the next generation of things. So this year for Christmas, both of my boys I gave them basketballs with chips in them that track how they shoot, what their shot is, what the velocity of the ball is, what all of that looks like, right? So that we have analytics to then improve with. It's just one more example of a device. I was thinking of all of the Alexas in my house. We have the new Alexa Spot that's got the camera. They're communicating. A couple of weeks ago on one of my KSL segments, that mug that's at the bottom is this really cool mug that's got a chip in it, and it's connected to your phone, and it will heat your drink to the exact right temperature and maintain the temperature, whether it's hot or cold. So these are just all sorts of examples, right, of different types of connected devices, and we're just at the beginning. Now everyone who sees me asks me if basically everything I own is connected, but I'm thinking about that all the time, and we are now just at this really interesting beginning. So what do you think the average number of devices is someone has in the United States that's connected? Anyone want to throw out a number? 5, 10? So the average number today is 13. Okay, so that's super interesting information that on average, every one of us in this room have 13 connected devices, and I think actually all of you have more, just because of the nature of the room that we're in. But that's a lot of connected devices, and we're just on the brink of this trend of the physical and the digital world integrating together. So this is what the trend looks like of connected devices. It's predicted that in the next 2 years, we'll hit 50 billion connected devices. You think about that. That's a lot of connected devices that didn't even exist, even 10 years ago at that same rate. Look at the acceleration and the rate of change that we're seeing in the connected devices. And what that tells you is that we've now invested in enough infrastructure. The infrastructure is working, and now we're in this place of finding these really interesting killer use cases that allow for people's lives to be changed. And that's the reason, when we talk about robots and AI and machine learning, it's such an interesting space, but it just means that all of our new innovation just goes to the next level, right? And now we're thinking about solving problems in an entirely different way that we didn't think about even a decade ago. And I think that's a really exciting place to be. When you look at the areas where spend is happening, so if you don't believe that 50 million connected devices are interesting, so we expect on business spending for IoT solutions that we'll see at least $6 trillion by 2021 spent in that market. And we're already seeing that. We're seeing these use cases, even in the farming industry, of all of the plants that are getting, let's say they have refrigeration, they have GPS locations, they're getting tracked. We know the refrigeration levels based on sensors that are taking produce from one location to a next to a distribution center. We're tracking that, we're tracking location, we're ensuring delivery. It allows us to reduce time for invoicing, it allows us to ensure quality product, if insurance needs to get triggered. You have all of that now available sitting inside of those, and we're gonna see that continue. General Electric believes by 2030 that IoT will add 10 to 15 trillion to the worldwide GDP. That's a significant investment in this connected world and what opportunities that affords all of us. And I just pulled this one out because I think it's interesting that smart clothing is going to sit at $24 billion by 2021. Most of you probably don't even think about smart clothing, and I think that's also a really interesting place. It doesn't just mean the wearable on my wrist. It means fabrics now have technology woven into them. It means we're thinking about communication transports, about NFC and RFID and what that means and how you get low power consumption in all of those. And it's just fascinating to think about that. You'll have threads that are going to be that intelligent that are woven into clothes that allow you to be tracked. And it's already happening. We're seeing it with all of our big retail friends who are using camera overlay systems to track RFID to reduce loss prevention. Right? And so there's a massive amount of spending and really interesting ways that I think are going to transform and that should inspire us for the next generation of innovation. This is a graph that just really quickly shows you some of the big key IoT industries and the relative amount of spend happening in those. I mean, from home automation, which we all, we live in a community where home automation is a really large market. And that's an easy one to see why that will continue to accelerate. Energy is also the same. We have lots of smart meters sitting out there. There's a project going on in Hawaii that's thinking about how you use the wind energy to basically create renewable energy for the entire island instead of bringing things like coal in. That's really interesting to think about how that is connected and how we then make energy available to everyone, even those who can't afford it, because it's a sustainable energy inside of its own ecosystem. And there's these just really interesting applications, and it's the data and the connectivity and the knowledge about those systems that allow us to think about ways that this market will change and what becomes interesting. So what it really means is that everything that you can imagine will have the opportunity to be connected. So I think there's nothing we own, nothing you interact with, nothing that you can imagine that won't have the opportunity to be connected. And what that also means is that I think we have a sense to figure out what's the most powerful interaction that can be created from that. What are the things that could change the world because it's possible? And also, how do we do it in a sense and in a way that's also responsible? In a world where privacy and security are such massive concerns, we have to make sure that there's this value exchange and the opportunity to introduce it. And those will become the killer applications for blockchain. The ability for us to opt in and give access to our information for value-add experiences that allow us to have, whether it's save time, create a better experience, allow us to focus on the things that are more important because we don't need to do certain tasks. You're going to see all of this infrastructure in the next decade merge together so that whether I'm thinking about when I'm on an airplane or whether you're at home with your family or you're connecting to something, the entire world, everything that you own, from those little silly things like the coffee mug to something else, has the opportunity to be connected. And what opportunities does that create for us, I think is a really interesting conversation. So I wanted to highlight a few of kind of the things that I see and some of my favorites. So I was at Disney when we launched the Magic Band. I still love the Magic Band. How many of you have been to Walt Disney World and had the Magic Band? Okay, you guys really got to go experience the Magic Band. What's so cool about it, so this was, even before we're in this complete revolution of digital to physical, but the Magic Band was created, driven by an experience. And I'm a big believer that we don't invent technology for technology's sake, but we invent it because of the specific goal and objective and experience that can be made so much better by the investment in that technology. So if you're a company like Disney, the thing that you care very most about is that everyone has a magical experience when they come, that they come with the intent of making memories, and that experience transcends everything else. And so when you think about big, lofty goals like that for your company or for whatever you're interested in, you start to invent and think about really cool things. So people at Disney, right, they think about, how can I make it that when you come to a theme park, all you think about is making memories with your family? How do you not think about where's your PhotoPass card? Where's my room key? Where's my credit card so I can pay for food? Where's those fast passes that I need people to run around to? Where's the entrance to the park? How do you make all that disappear and just let you have a magical experience? Well, they decided to invent a way with a magic band that becomes your entire world when you go there. And all you do is need that on your wrist, and it's everything. It's your room key, it's the way you pay for stuff, it's connected to your photos, which go to your mobile phone, it's your fast passes, it's everything that you need to only focus on making memories. And their introduction of this has transformed entire industries. If you go on a Carnival cruise line, they've introduced one. Universal Studios has introduced one. Everyone has thought about reducing friction so you focus on the right interaction. And we're just at the beginning of what this affords. And they're really interesting applications, and they're complicated technology problems. Right? Because I have to think about power, I have to think about communication, I have to think about security, I have to think about integrations, I have to think about infrastructure and systems. If you watched any of this, and change like this required Disney to change every lock on every door at every resort, change every payment system, change every park entrance, change every fast pass access in an entire park. That doesn't come for free. And it requires an amazing amount of technology innovation and infrastructure that is sustainable to create things like that and take them to the next level. And that's where the interesting technology innovations will continue to come. Retail is one of the fastest changing markets that we see right now in our country. And it's all driven by our immediacy, our time, our convenience. We expect that we can order on our phone, have it delivered in a day, but with it brings all sorts of interesting challenges. And so in this world of connecting digital and physical, because what you've seen for the last decade, our retailers heavily focus on that digital transformation, making it so that you can purchase online, making so that you can get access to that inventory and figure out where it's close to you. But now they're getting forced to think about distribution infrastructure. Amazon has to go put a distribution center wherever they need to get product to you in 2 hours, but other ones of our big retailers have them all close to you. So how are they going to change their infrastructure and make it so that they become your delivery systems? They're thinking about that. They're working on that, right? And you're going to see retail, it's not going to go away, but the way that we shop, what we expect, and the ability to have it delivered and have access is totally changing. From how you check out, to how you find inventory, to how you interact with infrastructure, to even how they use their space, which I find super interesting and one of the interesting ways to think about. Has anyone in here been on the Peloton bikes? See, I'm giving you a list of things that you all are going to go do now over the next. So the Peloton bikes, I think, are really fascinating. They were at CES this year when they launched their treadmill. So, it's a bike, right? The spin classes are really popular, the treadmills are really popular. But what did they do? They took and brought your entire class to the bike. So you want to go spin with all the guys in New York City with the most popular celebrity trainer live and have them know your name? Jump on the Peloton bike. Right? You'll all of a sudden be in a virtual class with hundreds of people, with a trainer who's calling out your name, who's telling you more cycles, who's trying to inspire you to do that, all in this virtual setting. How cool is that? To have this full connected experience inside of a really physical device, connected with people, connected with smart interaction, connected to you personally so that it knows your training plan, what your goals are, what it needs to inspire you. It can be from your home or it can be from the club. That's the way that we're going, even in things like fitness, which is such an interesting space. And we're just at the beginning of, I kind of think about, we're going to make every piece of standard equipment smart. We are thinking about, how do you take the rowing machine and make it smart? How do we know that when someone's there, they need a piece of information to know how to use the machine the best and how that lines up with their workout? We're thinking about that. Right? And we're thinking about things like, should you use, NFC, or how does it smart detect that, or, are there beacons that are doing that, or software-defined access points, all sorts of interesting things in that space. One of the favorite ones I saw at CES this year, I'm all over the smart refrigerators. I do not own one. Does anyone in here own one of them yet? Okay, well, this is all on our list of things that we should have. Because this is just yet another example where all of the appliances in our house are going to get connected. And the thing about the refrigerator is, not only can it become your family communication center of like, hey, remember you've got practice in 30 minutes. It has a camera that goes on the inside of your fridge so that if you're at the grocery store and you don't know if you're out of milk, you can find out. That's brilliant, because no one can ever tell me what food I'm out of until I get home from the grocery store. It can also, if you were diligent enough to track its expiration rates, it could tell you what food will expire, what you have in your fridge, what you should make based on all of the food and its expiration dates while you're sitting there, and based on what you have. It can help you create your shopping list. It can communicate with your family. You can do video calls from it. I think it's really cool. And this year at CES, almost every one of the manufacturers had some type of smart refrigerator sitting there. We saw smart washing machines to wash your clothes, to dry them. The laundry bot has not fully come to bear yet, but I'm waiting for that one, because it would be really nice if the laundry could get automatically folded and put away every time that I have to do it. But we're headed there, right? And they keep demoing these things and showing them along the way. So I love the idea around the smart refrigerator. Another one that I really like is the lawnmower bots. I really like okay, you might want your children to mow the lawn, that's fine. But I really like this idea of thinking about how we have all of these interesting robots and interactions. And this year the lawnmower was right up there with all of the rest of them. I actually have a friend who owns one here in the state, and he mows his lawn with that bot. It's not super fast, but it might take you all day. You might need a charging break in between. But it will, mow your lawn, and it's now connected, and it's telling you, what the state of your lawn is. Did it actually get mowed? And those are interesting things. Now, someone should just invent the weeding bot along the way, because that one we all clearly will need very soon also. One of the other interesting things, and I know that has another language to that. So this is a picture of Hudson Yards. Does anyone know what Hudson Yards is? So there's this massive new infrastructure getting built in New York City, right off of the Hudson, on about 34th. There's 3 massive phases. It's the largest project in the world, and it is the full integration of work, life, shopping, house, everything that you possibly need in these couple blocks radius. They built it on top of, it's actually getting built on top of a train yard. So they had to protect the train yard and build these massive buildings. And if you start watching, the first phase will open really soon. And it's an entire, you don't have to go anywhere else. You actually don't have to own a car, because the connected concierge service will allow you to just get the car whenever you need it. Right? When you walk by the digital sign, it will know who you are. It will know that when you pull into the parking lot, things like your apartment should then cool down because you're going to be there, because it's been on efficiency mode. It will know that the dry cleaner's down the street and that shirt needs to be delivered, and now you got home and now it will send it to you. It will know what's in your refrigerator or what dinner that you want. You name a service, it will know that your office is right across the street and the time that it takes you. It will create wayfinding. It will create every experience that you need. And this isn't the first of its kind. There are so many developments I'm aware of. It used to be called smart cities. People no longer like that term, just so you know. So we're going to come up with, some new name for this next generation thing, because all things must be renamed in the waves of evolution. But we're now in the space where these complete immersive environments are getting created so that the entire infrastructure is there, and it's going to include every component of it completely digital. So what does that mean for the types of services we create, for the innovation we think about? It does require massive amounts of innovation in machine learning and AI so that you can be predictive, so we can sense who you are, we can deliver right content in the right secure fashion, link that to the services you need, and bring it all the way back into full connectivity. Earlier this year, Tesla is one of our partners, and they have an office here in Utah. And, they created a dancing car this holiday. So if any of you own a Tesla, your car may or may not do this. But it is also really interesting, right? That the car has so many software systems that they can completely control it from the cloud and from the app. If there's something broken in the Tesla, they most likely just push a software download to everyone and fix it. That's how that car works. That's fascinating to think about what those look like. So they do even silly things like make a holiday video so your car dances, right? Which is really cool to see in person, just telling you, if you ever get to see that. And it's just one example of how these entire connected worlds come together, and the things that become possible, both creative, connected. How can we change the world with these? Where does this take the next level of innovation for us to think about? All of those types of things become possible over time. And I think as technologists, our charge is to think about, in a world where digital and physical now collide, it's not just on my mobile device. What happens, and what should I be doing, and what do I invest in? What infrastructure is needed? What connectivity? What privacy? How are we going to use blockchain in such a way that we all give control and permission and grant access to the things that are most important in a way that makes sense? That's the cool innovation that we get to think about and do every day. And it's going to continue to accelerate. If the world has 15 billion connected devices in 2 years, where do we go from there? And what becomes next? And what should you be thinking about? And even what skills do we need to make that so? Because that is going to be our world. We are going to be completely connected, and we are going to have the opportunity to figure out what that means and what we should invent and all of those things. And so I wanted to just hopefully inspire you for a few moments today to think about this really important trend that we are on the brink of, and to figure out, where should we be inventing, and how can you make an impact, and how, as you think about the next 10 years of innovation that you're working on, where will these points of intersection impact you, and how can you really, invent and innovate and make a difference in the world, in a world where everything is connected? Because I'm a huge believer that at the end of the day, the possibilities are endless. And we have great opportunity to do really interesting things together and to change really the entire world. So thank you for letting me take a few moments and talk to you about some of the trends that we're seeing in the market. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you.